It's your brain telling you, what are you doing, man? You don't deserve to be here. Or, why would they possibly want to read what you're whatever you're kind of writing about? And I guess my answer to that is you wouldn't have a company if you didn't have a thesis. If you don't have expertise, right, then you don't have a book. Oh, you have expertise? Then you have a book. It's can someone at the end of the book take away and go, okay, gee, I now understand that topic, then you have a book.
Yeah. And we're live. Welcome back to Back on Track. I know. I took a bit of a hiatus. Sorry, not sorry. I actually took a vacation, something that I rarely do. Went off to the wonderful land of Ireland and saw all of the things with me and my family. And then, of course, we came back and caught the sickness of all sicknesses. But we are all recovered, and I am back, and I am so excited for this episode. A little bit about the show before we dive on in. We talk a lot about shiny object syndrome on the show, and for many founders, nothing shines brighter than the idea of writing a book or launching a podcast. But if you don't have a strategy to back it up, you're just making noise. Lovely random acts of marketing. Today, we have Scott Turman, the founder of BrightRay Publishing. He's a former NASA software engineer who realized that authority is a technical challenge, and he's here to help us get our marketing back on track through this lovely concept of publishing. Scott, welcome to the show.
Hello there. Thank you.
I gotta know. I gotta get it out of the way. How did you go from NASA and Department of Defense to book publishing?
So I'm named after Scott Carpenter, who's the second American in space. My dad was an engineer on Mercury. I was destined to work at NASA my entire life. I really had pointed everything in that direction, moved to Orlando, the whole 9 yards, started working there. And it was awesome for a minute. Right. And then it wasn't. And as much as is the mission and all the things that go on out there is just absolutely incredible. It was an hour and 15-minute drive every day. So 2 hours and 30 minutes for, just in the car, that was tough. And some of the buildings were people got sent to the moon in this building, but they can't keep water out of the ceiling. Right next to my desk, I had do not hit with hammer. Asbestos was it was literally right next to me. So it got a little bit much. And I mean, I would go back there in a heartbeat, to be honest with you, just to have the experience again. But so I decided, okay, we have a baby in the way. We need to go get more stable, right? You need to be home more often. So I decided I want to go work at Disney, or at least that was the second biggest employer, as an example, in town. And I couldn't get them to bite for whatever reasons. So what I did was I FedExed my pitch to Michael Eisner at the time, who was the CEO of Disney at the time, like a complete psycho. I didn't know I was 28 years old. I didn't know any better. I didn't know what I was not supposed to do. I didn't know how far I was supposed to go, but I ended up getting a contract. And I never kind of looked back. Fast forward bazillions of years, during COVID, I was trying to hire 20 software engineers for a project I had just gotten with a Fortune 500. And I'm like, you know what? I've always thought writing a book would allow me to make this easier. Maybe, and the book was specifically about how to negotiate your salary, your contract, but for nerds specifically. I'm a terrible writer, by the way, but I've always dreamed of doing it. I knew it was a good branding exercise, all the stuff, right? And then a close friend of mine's daughter, who had published a ton of books at the age of 23, we worked it out remotely over COVID. She did this kind of process where she would actually interview. I thought it was a ghostwriting process, is what I had eventually thought. It ended up being this writer, almost like a writing group process. Back and forth, wrote the book. And I had a close friend, Craig Sicanti, who's a professor of entrepreneurship out of Rice University. How the hell did you do this? And I go, well, I told him. And he goes, hey, would you do that for me? And I'm like, yeah, sure. $12,000. He goes, okay. I'm like, so it was this kind of thing that was born in, fast forward a couple of years, and, we've, got a ton of writers and did a ton of books, and here we are.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that you just never know where things are going to take you, right? I mean, I went to school for photography, and now I'm running an agency out from the middle of the Channel Islands. Like you just never know. So to hear your story specifically, I know I've cut this out, folks, and it sort of is like something that doesn't make it into clips very well, but I had to know. So thank you for taking the ride with us. Ken Marshall, always good to see you. Thanks for joining us, buddy. I appreciate you. All right, let's get right into it. Because I think so many of us want to write books, but we just don't think we have anything to say. I'm gonna be transparent here, folks. I actually am signing up with Scott momentarily here because I, as an agency owner, as somebody who's done this for 13 years, as a brand building exercise purely because brand is just the antithesis of what we need to this, today in terms of marketing. We've always needed it, but I think we skirted by for a while of like just going after lead gen for so long that we forgot about the beautiful moat that is brand, and now it's coming back in full force because how AI operates and the need to make sure that your footprint is consistent across your entire digital footprint. And so I'm going to try and do this thing. And I got to say, I'm having some serious imposter syndrome of, do I have something interesting to say? We're going to find out through the process, but help me understand, Scott, you do this day in and day out. I mean, do you run into this a lot? It says you said it, that you even sort of had that, like, do I have anything interesting to say? So how do you help founders through that?
I mean, if you look at it as purely a branding exercise, that'll get you through it, right? But if you look at it as it's condensed thesis, right? It's hundreds of pages of what you know, right? Now, if you do it the way we do it, we actually have a TLDR, too long didn't read, in front of every chapter. So if someone's in a hurry, they could actually get the essence of your book in like 30 minutes just by reading the thing very quickly. In terms of imposter syndrome, I think that's real for any high functioning autistic for the most part, and a lot of us business owners are, right. So it's a real problem. The imposter syndrome is your brain telling you, what are you doing, man? You don't deserve to be here. Or, why would they possibly want to read what whatever you're kind of writing about? And I guess my answer to that is you wouldn't have a company if you didn't have a thesis. If you don't have expertise, right, then you don't have a book. Oh, you have expertise? Then you have a book. It's can someone at the end of the book take away and go, okay, gee, I now understand that topic. Then you have a book. Yeah. But no, we have had. I have been in the early days of BrightRay. We were talked into doing book projects, and we're like 3 weeks into it. And my writers came to me like, this guy has nothing, absolutely nothing. He is wealthy beyond his wildest dreams because his dad made all the money, and he's got absolutely nothing to say. That guy has no business writing a book, and we caught it too late, right? So yes, there are times when people shouldn't write books, but you're not one of them. If you have a thesis that works, then you have a book.
Well, we're gonna uncover it together, and I'm excited to go through the process with your team. I've been wanting to write a book for a long time, but I don't have the time really to do the actual writing of it.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Yeah. Actually, writing your own book is an absolute nightmare. If you've never done it before, it's going to be just okay. If you can't tell a story, right? Or if you're an ADHD mess like I am, right? There's no world where that translates into a coherent rise and fall of turning a phrase and now like, with AI, we can just do it with AI. AI is dog shit. It does not create anything of value. It just doesn't. In terms of pure text with a thematically speaking that's correct, that someone would want to read, right?
You still need to know what you're doing. Yeah.
You still need to know what you're doing. But writing a book on your own is just not fun. I heard it's like
birthing a baby. That's how people. Yeah. It's birthing a baby. Yeah.
I don't know about that. I have a feeling that's worse. Okay, I'm just saying. I'll take writing a book,
and I'm good with not having to do that again. Right. Most founders want book credibility, but that's kind of vague. What are the top 3 specific business goals a book should solve before a founder even writes the first word?
I mean, if we write books specifically for business lead gen, but does it mean that if you have a title and a subtitle, that the person who you're trying to endear to them a little bit, right? They need to see themselves in the title and their problem in that subtitle, or vice versa. Start there, right? If you can't even, and that's if we can't even start there, you can't even kind of work your way backwards from the thesis that can be what title and cover is like 90% of the problem in a bookstore, right? So ultimately, you're trying to you've got to find the thematically speaking, they see the problem themselves in that title, right? And ultimately, the ultimate goal is for them to read the book, see that you have the expertise, realize whatever you do is impossible for them to do themselves, or they could do it, but what a giant pain in the butt to do, like writing a book, be an example, producing a podcast. I'll hire this person who I just learned how it's done from, and that's 90% of it.
Just go do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I loved, I mean, that was one of the first questions you asked me, which I really loved, is like what your writers actually asked me, and they said, what would it look like at the end of this? Like what does the outcome for you personally look like? And I was like, I want, you know, there's so much trust that has to be built these days in marketing. And so to really kick that up and write something that has some authority to it in a way that allows marketing to do so much more heavy lifting for me, as I just don't feel like a salesperson. And so to do that one-to-one outreach all the time, and to then get people to, you know, to press on their pain and to nurture them over time, to then, I'd rather build a marketing engine that can do so much more of that initial heavy lifting for me, because I'm at heart a marketer. And so I'm very curious to use this, you know, the book to do that for me, so that I can get back to being the CEO, being a CMO, and being with my family. And I just really loved it. Really made I had to like sit back and really think through that. But I just love that question. And my point is the writer asked me that such a thoughtful question, and I just really loved that I could sit there for a minute and think through it and really figure out what it was going to do, not just from lead generation, but what it was going to do for me as a person. So
yeah, here's the diabolical part, right? If you take that book, right, and if you can mentally go, if I can hand this book to someone, a rando that's definitely in my that may have a need for the thing that I sell, right? And if you could just hand that book to them and walk away, and if you feel at the end of that book they would be interested in maybe talking to you about what you do, that's the ultimate goal.
That's it.
Now let's scale that. Sales engine, marketing engine. Let's go send that book to 1,000 people via the mail, because no one gets mail anymore. Nobody gets mail, right? So it's the Twitter is a cesspool. LinkedIn is an AI nightmare. It's all generated. It's all auto-generated. Everything is so difficult to even get through, and to look at anything there, it's very difficult to know if it's humor or not, right? AdWords used to cost $2. Now they're $100 for a single lead, right? Everything is clogged, but you know what's not clogged? The mail. No one gets mail. You have 100% open rate. Now, imagine this. If you have a handful of people you want to get that book to, send it to them from Amazon, because everybody opens an Amazon package with their name on it. That's true. Right? And now you have a way of just kind of follow up with an email, right? With the, hey, did you get my book? And you're gone. Some of the initial success that we had, we sent out 200 and something books. And then I did an AI dossier on the person and a dossier on the company. That way the messaging would be factually about them, right?
Yeah.
All with an email. Did you get my book? Like 3 sentences about their organization and why this book will help them, right? And then I send that in a three sequence on HubSpot. We had a between 17 and 30% response rate to the email.
Response rate, not open rate.
Not open rate was no open rate. I get above 90%. You can't really tell, but I got a very high open rate. I'll show you how to do that later on if you want to know. But our open rate's pretty high. But did you get my package or book, or like, hey, Carrie, did you get my package, my book? You're gonna open the email, right?
Totally.
So with that said, so the response was like, hey, yeah, I did. What's this all about? And then boom, you have a conversation. Now hybrid that with hey, I'm just inviting you to my podcast. And now you're punching above your weight. You're getting a hold of people that can't be gotten a hold of. I'm getting a hold of Fortune 500 CEOs that have so many layers, but guess what floats right to their front desk? A package from Amazon.
Yep. They're naming it. I have to know, because now that we're in COVID, post COVID, and so many people are remote.
Yep.
There is some hybrid action, but I mean, nobody could send me a package if they tried, because I'm also overseas. But with everything with everybody being so all over the place, how on earth do you find their? I mean, that feels a little creepy. If somebody sent me a package and they knew where I lived, I'd be that would raise an eyebrow.
There's a couple of ways, right? The big aha moment for us a couple of years ago was, have you noticed that people actually put the town they live in on their LinkedIn profile and not where they work? Typically, 99% of the people actually do where they live, not where they work, right? Now you do a longitude, latitude, distance, right? Cosine, sine, cosine. How far is that office? If it's 30 minutes away, they go to that office. There's a 97% chance they go to that office, right? So finding that address is typically an office address. That's not typically hard. There's a million services to do that. Now scale and automate that with AI, right? And you're going to get about a 95% delivery rate. Now, the great thing about that is if it's wrong, you'll get the package back and it won't cost you any money.
That's true.
Right? So, and here's the other thing. If it's a founder, guess who's going to walk that book right to the boss's desk or make sure they get it?
Yeah.
A package with their name on it. They're not going to open it.
With their name on
They're going to make sure the boss gets it. And she will be very thankful that someone got her mail, right?
Yeah, and who doesn't love getting a present in the mail? I mean,
it's diabolical. It's so diabolical, right? When you think about what you're doing, you're getting right around the front door. You're going through a side door. You're getting to people you're not supposed to. We sent this out to, I want to say it was like 20 or 30 people in the House of Representatives, or different varying House representatives in the United States, with 100% delivery rate, because they thought that their boss, the senator or the congressman, ordered a book. Right? It was right to them.
And then that's crazy. And then 100%. And then what happened from there? So they got the book. You send them an email. Did you get my package?
No. So in the senator's case or the congressman's case, we actually said, hey, text me. I'm an expert in ... I want to be on your committee for this law coming up, or whatever thing we were trying to do, which I can't really talk about from a multiple NDAs.
Oh yeah, sorry.
We were trying to sway this one committee, specifically in drug rehabilitation, right? So the book was literally the thesis of why that was a good or bad idea. Send that out to people, and then guess who got texts from congressmen? We did.
Yeah.
So, we got it from their assistants, and then we ultimately got in front of them. But it's a thing, right? So yeah,
there is something about a book that carries weight in and of itself, that it's a physical book. I mean, you've been doing this for a while, so help me understand the psychology of that, of like, this must be important because it's in a book. Like, what? Is that still true to this day? Is that losing its luster because so many more people are writing its book, or is that still holding?
So there's this guy named Kevin Mollenkamp. He's the guy who came up with America Runs on Duncan. It's not TV, it's HBO. Visa, it's everywhere, right? He's like the great grandfather of branding. He's a total badass. And he said, what asshole throws away a book? No one throws away a book. That, even if it's like, Windows for work groups, or like, Excel 2.0, you're like a little hesitant to even throw away that book that's got zero value. You're still not throwing away, or you feel weird about throwing away. And I think that's going to be true at least for the next couple of years.
Oh my God. I accidentally, because we're cleaning a house as we might be moving, and I threw one of my kids' books away, and I was like, what am I doing? I mean, I know it's recyclable, but I just need to put it in the Goodwill pile. It'll go to Goodwill, and somebody will enjoy this book somewhere down the road. I just couldn't bring myself to recycle it. It's so true. It's so true. You've worked with NASA and the DoD, as we mentioned. What's one logic-based framework from the engineering world that you apply to positioning and personal brand?
It really is execution, right? So, for years, and this maybe is less true with AI nowadays, right? Before, the idea meant nothing. Your Twitter for accountants, or Grindr for cats, or whatever bullshit idea someone would pitch me. They go, hey, would you sign an NDA? I'm like, no, I'm not signing an NDA for your Facebook for accountants, or whatever stupid idea you got, right? But now execution was the hard part, right? Because any idea, any like, I want to go to the moon. Well, good luck with that, right? How are you going to get there? So with that said, the agile methodology, development methodology is the software development. It used to be where you would plan for 9 months or a year. Like, let's go do let's go make the payload package this, and the explosive is going to be this. And, we're going to figure out long lat from, doing things this way and whatever. And in the meantime, they invented GPS. So now all your plans are horse crap. They're not going to work, right? With agile, you make those decisions every single day. You can turn the ship every day, as opposed to having, a flash of understanding every 6 months, right? Yeah. So waterfall used to be the old way, which is a plan and they execute. Now agile is make that decision every single day what you should be working on, because it may be different from day to day. What are you doing? What'd you do yesterday? What are you doing today? And your team, and you'll find that things just get done. They get done. So that was what. So our writing team does an agile stand up every day.
We're agile too. It's absolutely. We've been. I read that book. Oh gosh, it was 2014. So ever since because I married an engineer, and so he was talking all about agile and how they work, and I was like, tell me more. And then I just picked it up and implemented it, because it just felt. It does allow you that pivoting, that everyday iteration and slight tweaking is so much more effective than having to completely turn the Titanic. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely the way it should have been, right? Because your sample size is daily, where before a sample size was like every couple of months, right? I don't know I don't remember the numbers specifically, but it goes something like this. The Department of Defense used so if you were going to go create a missile, right? And you're going to go have a payload, you're going to have coordinates, you're going to have fire control, all the stuff that goes with it, right? You would go plan that out. And they were having, like, for certain software projects, they were having a 90% failure rate. 90%. It was bonkers. Always over budget. Never got it delivered on time. It was never what we asked for. The contracts were always wrong. You're always missing this and whatever. So they started doing agile with the original not founder of agile, but one of the guys, the big proponents whose name completely escapes me right now. And they started like creeping down to 70%, 50%. 40% failure rate. It started going down, right? So now if you go pitch DoD, if agile is not part of the plan, you're not getting the contract.
Interesting. Yeah, it's game changing. Founders are busy. Walk us through the no type workflow. What specific tools or meeting cadences do you set up so the book actually gets finished without the founder losing 20 hours a week or their patience or their sanity?
So typically you would be meeting with two writers a week, and there's about an hour as an hour interview. And then at the end of that, they have base material. Now we've worked out thesis, outline, a general outline, and they're really just, they're kind of poking around a little bit. Oh, that's great. Why do you feel that way? You're like, I guess I feel this way because of this. And it ends up being a therapy session, right? And then from 1 hour, it gens about 20 hours worth of work on our side. We'll be typing and working about 20 hours for every 1 hour that our customer actually does the interview, right? And then this goes on for a couple of months. And at the end of it, you have something distilled and valuable. And many times, people that we do this for change their business model a little bit, because they this therapy session ended up uncovering some stuff like, that's right. It's the original reason I started this was ... And until you kind of hug it out, for lack of a better word, you don't really maybe know some of the basis of your thesis of your business as well as you maybe thought did, or maybe you started out one way and you went to the other way and maybe you forgot the reasons you did it and et cetera.
It's so true of founders. I talk a lot about this over the show, because normally when fractional marketing leaders or in-house marketing leaders sort of show up for the first time to an organization, the first thing they'll do is sort of a round robin to everybody and have interviews, and one people to sit down with is the founder. And it's always sort of that aha moment of like, oh, that's right. That's why I started this thing, and getting back to that problem solution of what you're trying to actually do for your customers. We just so easily lose sight of that from the bright shininess of the things. But yeah, that's getting back to your core is so important.
There's a guy named Mike Maples Jr. He is the private equity of all private equity. I'm like a fanboy of his for sure. And he was like one of the original, I don't know, investors in Twitter and Instagram and whatever, right? He is fascinating because he keeps data on everything. And he's had hundreds and possibly thousands of investments over the last 20, 30 years, right? So he noticed that the companies that went on to do great things pivoted 3 years in for the most part. So it's like you started off as a messaging app, but you turned into 120 characters. They didn't figure that thesis out until they were 3 years in, and they pivoted. Pivoting companies make all the money is what is ultimately. If you could survive long enough for 3 years to basically pay the bills and not go bankrupt, you had time to go figure out your product market fit, right?
Yes.
So this is a 3 or 4 month investment in understanding product market fit better than you could ever have done in any other way, because we're going to force you every week to tell us why this matters. We're going to force you every week to tell us the reasons and the things you know and why you think they're valuable every week. And at the end of it, you will have distilled value.
I got that in the first week. I was being so pushed in terms of like what that value is and what we bring to companies and why us. Like, oh man, and I feel like we only scratched the surface. Like I did a lot of work last year on trying to figure out product market fit, and I think we're in a good spot right now, but I know that like we're gonna really we're gonna really put that to the test. It's gonna be a fun ride.
Product placement price, right? The P's, right? What is the thing I sell? What do I sell it for? And how do I deliver it? And what is the perceived value? And do they believe that price is worth the thing they're getting out, right? If it's too high, you'll make no sales. If it's too low, you'll make too many. You'll die of, your company will die of indigestion and not starvation. We rarely die of starvation in this business. We can figure out there's money and blood in the water, right? We can smell it a mile away, but at what price, right? What are we willing to sell that service for, and how much, and on and on and on.
True, so true. Before the book is even published, what are the 3 assets what 3 assets do we need to build to ensure the launch isn't just a one-day spike on Amazon?
So there's a couple of things you're going to want to do, right? I found years ago that one of the most successful things I could do was as a text messaging campaign to people I know. So let's say the book goes live at 8 o'clock at night, because you don't really, Amazon just kind of chooses an hour, by the way. They don't really know sometimes. Sometimes like, well, there's someone there physically, I think, clicking a button, believe it or not, on the other side in Bangalore or wherever the hell they're at, right? So what you're trying to get the people who love and respect you, they're going to buy that book day one, right? Let's go try to make that 500 or 600 people. Well, the way you do that is you make sure that weeks before that, they know you're going to publish. They're going to buy anyway, right? These are not your prospects. These are people who already love and respect and just want you to do well wishers, if you will. So if you text message that, okay, today's the day, here's the link. All they got to do is click the link and hit the buy button. There's all like, okay, move over here, move over there for a second, right? You'll have like an 80% conversion rate just for the people who already said they would buy the book, right? And now you've got 200 or 300 sales. You're typically number one in your category with 50, and depending on the category, right? And that's a matter of how many days in a row can you do that to become an actual, like, number one bestseller is it's horseshit. It's lost its meaning, right? Oh wow, you're in I don't know, you're in albino studies, category with like 3 other books. Congratulations, you sold 1 book and you're number 1. Nobody cares about that. That means absolutely nothing. Now, are you number 1 in marketing? Because that's bonkers, right?
Right.
And that's basically the difference. So there's a couple of ways to get there. Obviously, you can kind of marshal your forces of the people that, already respect and love you. Also marshal social media, right? Maybe do a little bit of light advertising. If you have, I love on LinkedIn, the one thing I do use LinkedIn for is you can take 10,000 of email addresses of the people that you've dealt with and kind of know you, and go make them into their own category and then advertise just to those people.
To them. Yep.
So go advertise that book to just those people for 5 days.
And then maybe they already have it in their, maybe it's already been shipped to them. And then this is just a reminder that they have it, should go read it.
But yeah, and that's the thing, is that the book sales is less important than sending, like, would you rather have 10,000 book sales or make $1 million in your services? Because
Yeah.
I'm just saying, wouldn't you rather send that book to 1,000 people and go make 50 sales? Because I would. I don't really care how well it does. I personally don't care how well it does on Amazon. I care that I converted people into my services and they got something valuable at the end of it.
Yeah, I think it depends on how, we're not authors who are going to write multiple books and, do book signings and all of these things to essentially sell more books and get the next, the next, how publishers will give you like that feed to get you going for the next book, right? We're not those kind of writers. This is a total marketing strategy in regards to building authority and getting in front of the right people and saying the right thing. Speaking of building authority, this book, as an SEO agency, one of the key things I'm most interested in regards to this is actually uploading the book to Google Books and having that impact the SERPs, right? I mean, can you talk to us about that? You've seen that happen.
So yeah, it's the shortcut for a knowledge panel, right? If you go as an author but if your name's Barack Obama, you're never getting a knowledge panel. Or you have to have a semi-unique name. John Smith, not getting a knowledge panel, but Kerry Gard, you're getting a knowledge panel. There's not a lot of Kerry Gards out there. There was the Black Power Ranger from the 90s TV show. His name was Scott Turman, and I crushed him because I had to, because he was coming up before I was, right? So I wrote a book, and now you enter the kind of consciousness of Google through the books categorization, the way, kind of Google's like, okay, well, what is that? It's a noun, and that's a dude. And now, he's an author, and he's a this and a that and the other. And then typically happens that triggers that knowledge panel, which is kind of a shortcut. If you type in Bill Gates as an example, you're going to see his giant head. Type in Scott Turman Entrepreneur, you'll see my giant head there with all the information on it. I entered that conscious through Google Books. That was the shortcut. Yeah. It's either that or a Wikipedia page, right? And you gotta there's notoriety requirements. Wikipedia, it's a little bit harder.
Right. I had to get married to get my name because I was originally Carrie Ellis, and there's already a famous Carrie Ellis. So when I met my husband and I typed up Carrie Gard, I was like, "There's no other Carrie Gards." I was very excited. I was like, "I will absolutely take your name. That sounds great."
Let's pretend that wasn't going to work though. What's your middle name? Like maybe you have to rebrand yourself in order to show up better, right? Yeah. You of all people understand that the knowledge graph is pickled everything, right? And the more the stronger the scent, the more sure Google is about something, the more likely it is they are to show you, as opposed to another Black Power Ranger named Scott Turman.
Oh gosh, Scott, I could talk to you all day, and I have so many questions. I'm trying to pick I'll ask two last questions here. A lot of people track downloads or book sales. We talked about revenue and ROI. It sounds like you've had good success in helping companies actually produce an ROI. First part of the question is, do you have any averages in terms of, or stories or examples of what return people have come to expect from doing this?
So it's, okay, like all things, it depends, right? If you're an NFL football player, we wrote your book, they're looking to kind of take control of the narrative. They're not selling a service. They're trying to build that brand. Right. Like that's a different ROI for them. But if you have a service that costs $50,000 to $100,000, that is a service that requires trust. And trust is an agreement in my opinion, it's an agreement of your customer that you have the knowledge and the history, to go do the thing they want you to do or need you to do, right? So if you can, if you were selling 10 of those things a year, for $1 million for $100,000 a pop, right? And trust is the barrier. You're just going to make more money. You just are, right? The more complicated the thing it is that you do, the more that your customer needs to understand in order to actually find you valuable, right? The more valuable a book is, because a book is that compressed understanding of your thesis and your knowledge, right? Now, in terms of numbers, no, because the guy who has a green hydrogen company out of Canada, like the value for him is he gets on CNN and talks about green hydrogen, right? That has different value than someone like Kevin Mullenkamp, who sends his book to dying food brands like Hardee's or whatever, because he wants to go rebrand them. Well, that's $1.5 million. Boom, right there. But now he can scale it. Now he can send 1,000 of them. And if he gets 2 sales a year, he's making a fortune. So it all depends on. It all depends on how much that thing is, that widget you're selling.
What value you're ultimately looking for. Okay. Well, outside of ROI, what are some other metrics that we should be paying attention to when we write a book other than downloads and book sales? Are there any other things we could be to feel like this was a success?
I mean, So in terms of actual hard numbers, you probably want a bunch of reviews from your people, which is fine, right? But ultimately, I kind of bypass all that because I send out 1,000 copies of the book, right? You're getting the phone to ring, and if your top of funnel gets filled up, then you won.
You're good,
right?
You're good.
Period. It's full stop. If you don't sell a single book, who cares? If you fill the top of your funnel up, that's what matters in this case, right? And the thing that you're doing here.
Totally. All right, last question for you, Scott, because again, we could talk all day. If a founder is stuck in the growth valley, right, in that awful 2 to 10 million place, and their revenue needs to outpace their expenses, right? The struggle is real. What's one single actionable step they can do in the next 24 hours to start building real authority in your branding experience?
Minus a book, go appear on podcasts. Start getting on podcasts immediately. So the great thing about podcasts is you actually get your thesis down by you do the 3rd or 4th one. You have all these ideas of what you're going to talk about, but you don't really know, especially if you're kind of new to it. By the time you do your 4th one, you have a samurai sword. You are now a blade. Your understanding of how you're going to pitch your thesis gets very, very fine because you're on the spot, right?
It's
the first thing I would do is go get on 5 podcasts immediately. I don't care if 3 people watch these podcasts. Go do it 3 or 5 immediately just so you can get your story straight. Get your bullshit together before you go. Once you the 5th one, you're going to get better and better and better at 6th one. 7th one, you've already got all the stories loaded in your head. You've already got all the examples. You've got all the there's nothing they could tell you or ask you that you won't know, right? And at the very minimum, you'll get coverage. At the very maximum, maybe you'll get some sales out of it. Maybe people will call you because they heard you on the podcast. But it's the lowest bar in terms of how you can do something tomorrow. Go get a podcast. Immediately go get on the podcast.
Yep, totally agree. It is. I love being a host. I prefer it, but there is power in being in the hot seat, and it is finding your message for sure. Scott, this was amazing. Where can people find you?
BrightRay.com, BrightRay.com, or just look me up on Google.
Yes, you're right there. I have you up. I can see you.
Yep. There we go.
That's awesome. Thank you all to our listeners. Ken, so good to see you. Heidi, thank you for jumping in. If you were watching this after hours, no worries. Drop us the questions. We'll get back to you. If you are ready to write that book, to get over your imposter syndrome and to say something thoughtful out into the world while also building that brand and bringing in some revenue, give Scott a call. This episode was brought to you by MKG Marketing. We help B2B tech companies get found in search and AI and everywhere your buyers are looking, so you're winning deals before the demo even happens. I'm Carrie Gard, and as we say here in Guernsey, à la prochaine.